There is a reason your closet looks the way it does, and it has nothing to do with fashion trends. For some people, black is just a color. For others, it becomes a uniform, a default, a second skin. You reach for it automatically. Shirts, jackets, shoes, entire outfits built from the same shade. You don't always know how it started, only that it feels right, safe, grounding, honest. And yet, people notice. They joke about it. They ask questions. They make assumptions. You're mysterious. You're dark. You're depressed. You're intimidating. What almost no one asks is the real question. What is happening psychologically when someone consistently chooses black? Because this isn't random, it's not accidental, and it's rarely just aesthetic. The choice of black often emerges from deep psychological patterns: identity, control, trauma, intelligence, emotional boundaries, and the need to regulate how the world reaches you. If you always wear black, this isn't about hiding. It's about managing exposure. And once you understand why, you'll realize your clothing has been speaking on your behalf for a very long time. When clothing becomes psychological armor. Before black became a style, it was a function. Throughout history, black symbolized protection, authority, and distance. Judges, monks, tacticians, strategists, artists, rebels. People who needed to observe more than perform often dressed in darker tones. Psychologically, clothing is not just expression, it is boundary setting. People who consistently wear black tend to experience the world intensely. They feel watched, evaluated, misread, or intruded upon more than others. Even if they can't articulate it, their nervous system has learned one thing: reduce unnecessary exposure. Black absorbs attention rather than reflecting it. It minimizes visual noise. It simplifies decision-making. This is not vanity. It's regulation. For many, black becomes a way to move through the world without constantly negotiating identity. It says, "This is me. Take it or don't. I'm not here to perform for you." That instinct doesn't come from nowhere. It usually comes from having been misunderstood too often. The nervous system of someone who chooses black. People who gravitate toward black often have highly active nervous systems. They notice more, think more, feel more. Bright colors stimulate. Patterns demand attention. Variety invites commentary. Black does the opposite. It quiets the environment. From a psychological standpoint, black reduces sensory input. It creates predictability in an unpredictable world. When life feels overwhelming, emotionally, socially, cognitively, simplifying the outer layer becomes a form of control. This is why many intelligent, introspective, or trauma-adapted individuals develop uniform dressing habits. Their mind already handles complexity internally. They don't want it externally too. There's also a strong link between wearing black and cognitive efficiency. Fewer choices mean less decision fatigue. The brain conserves energy for things that matter more: thinking, creating, surviving, processing. If you wear black often, it may be because your mind is already busy. Your clothing is doing one job: staying out of the way. 7 psychological patterns common in people who always wear black. Pattern number 1. You value control over impression. People who wear black regularly tend to care less about how others interpret them and more about how they feel inside their own skin. Black creates a neutral baseline. It limits misinterpretation. It prevents emotional leakage. Pattern number 2. You are highly self-observant. You are aware of how you move through space, how others react, how energy shifts in rooms. Black allows you to observe without becoming the focal point. It's the color of watchers, not performers. Pattern number 3. You dislike unnecessary vulnerability. Bright colors feel like emotional exposure. They invite questions, comments, and assumptions. Black is psychologically private. It keeps your internal world from being publicly accessible. Pattern number 4. You are drawn to depth over novelty. People who constantly chase new colors often seek stimulation. People who stick with black often seek meaning. They are less interested in being visually entertaining and more interested in being internally aligned. Pattern number 5. You've experienced periods of emotional intensity. This doesn't mean depression, but it often means depth, loss, trauma responses, identity shifts. Black feels honest during times when pretending feels unbearable. It doesn't demand cheerfulness or explanation. Pattern number 6. You are sensitive to chaos, crowds, noise, bright environments, emotional volatility. Black acts as a grounding force. It creates psychological weight. It stabilizes. Pattern number 7. You prefer timelessness over trends. Black resists aging. It doesn't expire. This often mirrors a mindset that values long-term thinking, existential reflection, and resistance to superficial cycles. None of these patterns are pathological. They are adaptive. The dark misinterpretations society projects onto you. Here's where things get distorted. Society is uncomfortable with neutrality. It prefers obvious signals, smiles, brightness, cheer, performative openness. So when you consistently wear black, people project meaning onto you whether you want them to or not. They may assume you're depressed, or intimidating, or cold, or emotionally unavailable. But this says far more about them than it does about you. In reality, many people who wear black are emotionally intelligent. They feel deeply but selectively. They don't broadcast their inner world because they know how easily it can be mishandled. There's also a darker truth. People who wear black often learned early that visibility invites judgment. Maybe they were criticized for standing out. Maybe their emotions were invalidated. Maybe they learned that being seen came with consequences. Black becomes a way of saying, I choose when I'm visible. That's not insecurity. That's discernment. Case studies you've probably lived through. Consider the person who shows up to work dressed entirely in black, clean, sharp, minimal. They're often described as serious or intense, but behind that is usually someone who doesn't want their competence questioned based on aesthetics. Black removes distraction. It lets their mind do the talking. Or the person who went through a major loss or identity rupture. During that period, color felt dishonest. Black matched the internal state. Not sadness alone, but clarity. When life stripped things down, black remained. Or the highly creative individual who dresses in black daily. Artists, writers, musicians often do this not because they lack imagination, but because they want all their creative energy focused inward. Their clothing is a container, not a canvas. These are not coincidences. They are psychological strategies. When wearing black is about safety, not style. For some people, wearing black is directly linked to trauma responses. If you grew up in an environment where attention was dangerous, where being noticed meant being criticized, controlled, or hurt, your nervous system learned to reduce visibility. Black doesn't attract, it deflects. It creates emotional distance in environments that don't feel safe. It's not about hiding your identity, it's about protecting it. This doesn't mean you're broken. It means you adapted. The danger is not wearing black. The danger is when you never feel safe without it. Awareness is key here. Black can be grounding, but it shouldn't feel like armor you can never remove. The intelligence factor most people miss. There's a strong overlap between people who prefer black and those with high cognitive engagement. Philosophers, strategists, engineers, analysts, deep thinkers, many default to neutral palettes. Why? Because their mind is already saturated. This aligns with high IQ habits, minimizing trivial decisions, reducing sensory clutter, preserving mental energy for abstract thinking. Wearing black repeatedly is often an unconscious efficiency strategy. It simplifies, it stabilizes, it conserves. This doesn't make someone superior. but it does suggest their attention is directed elsewhere, toward ideas, systems, patterns, and meaning. Reclaiming the choice, consciously. Here's the most important shift. Wearing black is not a problem. Wearing black unconsciously can be. Ask yourself one question. Do I wear black because it empowers me or because it protects me from something unresolved? Both answers are valid, but they require different awareness. If black makes you feel grounded, focused, authentic, that's alignment. If black feels like armor you can't take off, that's information. The goal is not to change your wardrobe. The goal is to understand the role it's playing in your life. When choice becomes conscious, it becomes powerful. The color that tells the truth without explaining it. People who always wear black are rarely trying to disappear. They are trying to exist without interference. They have learned that not everything needs to be shared. That depth doesn't require decoration. That presence doesn't need permission. Black is not emptiness. It is containment. And if you've chosen it again and again, there's a reason your nervous system trusts it. The question isn't whether black defines you. It's whether you now understand why it's been standing beside you all along. Because once you do, the color stops being a shield and becomes a statement you no longer need to explain.